Okay, today we're going to look at the pectoral girdle. Basically, your pectoral girdle is your shoulder girdle, and it makes an incomplete ring. So basically, it actually kind of makes almost a V that supports your upper limbs. And basically, the only parts that make up your pectoral girdle, so here's kind of the V that I'm talking about, or an incomplete ring. You've got the clavicle here and the scapula here, and this is what's going to make up your pectoral girdle, and it's an attachment for your upper limbs, and then it also attaches to your ribs. So 2 clavicles, 2 scapula, you have one on each side, one on the right, one on the left. The clavicles, collarbone, generic term is collarbone. Collarbone is the most broken bone in the body because it's not very thick and it's not movable. If I get hit in my arm can move, so there's a less chance of it breaking. My clavicle is very stationary, so it's kind of in a spot where there's not room for movement. So if you get hit in the clavicle, it's easy to break. So the clavicle is the most broken bone in the body. A little bit S-shaped, it's at the base of the neck, and it's a brace for the scapula, which is another reason it's not very movable. So, things that I will ask. If you look at your clavicle, there's the sternal end. Sternal, it attaches to the sternum. That should make sense. This is the acromial end because it's going to attach to the acromion process of your scapula. So there's 2 ends to your clavicle, sternal end and acromial end. Acromion process then is part of your scapula, and we'll look more at that in just a minute. And then I can show you how it actually looks on your scapula. So your scapula are your 2 back shoulder blades. They're pretty broad bones. They're kind of triangular shaped. There's a spine that runs down the top, not really the center, it's more towards its top. And it divides the posterior scapula into unequal portions, a top and a bottom. The spine ends with the acromion process, and that's where it joins or articulates with the clavicle. The coracoid process is another place for attachment, and that's going to be an attachment for your limb and chest muscles. And then the glenoid cavity is where it joins or articulates with the head of the humerus. So these 3 terms, I would like you to know where those 3 process, cavity, I'd like you to know where those are. So if I look at a scapula, so here's the posterior, here's the back. So if I'm looking at the back of my body, here's the back of the scapula, the posterior side. It has the spine that runs down it. When I look at a scapula, kind of the way and this is the way I learned it in college, A before C. So if I look at my scapula, whether I'm looking from the back or from the side, the acromion process is higher than the coracoid process, A before C. Acromion is going to join to your scapula. Coracoid is where muscles, your chest muscles, are going to attach. And then this glenoid cavity is where the head of your humerus, where your arm is going to fit in. So if I can kind of take one that's a little bit broken apart, and I can see, so here's my clavicle right here. The clavicle attaches to the acromion process, which is on top. The coracoid process is on the bottom. And then the glenoid cavity is in here, and that's where my humerus bone is going to fit in. So A over C, and then the glenoid cavity is where your humerus attaches. Other than that, the only thing I would maybe ask, supraspinous is the area above the spine. Infraspinous is the flat area below the spine. But the most important are these three right there.